In the previous episode of Divine Journey Z, I began my mission to beat the Ender Dragon in one of Minecraft's most difficult mod packs. Last time, I established a base, completed Totemic, and fought Baycock. All of this would allow me to continue onto the next chapter of our journey, the Industrial Revolution in Minecraft. But before I get into the video, it has occurred to me that I didn't really properly explain what Divine Journey 2 actually is in the last episode, so I'll do that now. Divine Journey 2 is an expert mod pack. Expert packs are usually very long, very hard, and cause lots of pain, and Divine Journey is no exception. The goal of Divine Journey is to complete all 30 chapters of its questbook in order to make the key to infinity, which allows you to unlock the meaning of life. The quest to do this is absolutely massive, composed of over 1600 quests, and is one of the more difficult mod packs out there. It truly is a divine journey. Now, this pack can be split into roughly 4 parts. Part 1 is the early game exploration chapter. There's really no grind at all in this part, and I would say it's the easiest and most fun part. You get to run around many different dimensions and do lots of exploration. The goal of this series is to finish the first part of DJ2, because it's the part I think is the most fun, and I've actually beaten Divine Journey on my own, and while I love this pack to bits, there is actually no way in hell that I'm doing all of that shit again. Anyways, back to the video. With the fall of Baycock, I now had access to his bow, the very literally named Baycock's bow. A magical bow, so magical that it could allow me to craft Baycock's Bloodied Stone. This Bloodied Stone would allow me to craft 2 multi-blocks that would be absolutely essential for progression: the Coke Oven and Blast Furnace, which exist in real life. These 2 multi-blocks would allow me to create the most important ingot in the entire game: steel. But remember how I said that I needed blood? Well, unfortunately, there are only 2 ways to get blood. I could either smelt rotten flesh in the smeltery, or I could smelt myself. And since I didn't have any rotten flesh, it was time to commit some self-immolation. 40 times. After 10 minutes of self-smelting, and accidentally creating a bridge to Asgard, I had everything I needed to create the Blast Furnace and Coke Oven, except for one thing: somewhere to put it. So I spent the next few minutes doing that. Finally, after all of that effort, I could make some steel. At a blood-curdlingly slow speed. But now that I had steel, I set my sights on my next objective: power. Since I was still basically in the Stone Age, I only had one way to make power, and that was a waterfall turning a water wheel, turning a generator, turning Minecraft kinetic energy into Minecraft electrical energy. At last, electricity. But power is only useful if it's powering something. But I didn't have something. But I could make something. But I needed more steel to make something. But I could get lots of steel after 30 minutes of waiting. In the meantime, I decided to explore the Nether. Going to the Nether was not fun. This pack has a mod called the Better Nether mod, which is a misnomer because it makes the Nether about 1 billion times worse. There are poisonous eggplants everywhere, cracked out bow spamming blazes, aggressive bats, and mining ore aggro's all nearby pigmen for good measure. But all of that would not stop me. As Inspirobot once said,
Kings shag what proctologists fuck.
Truly deep words. Now that I was in the Nether, I had a laundry list of items that I needed to get. Now that I'd gotten all that miscellaneous garbage out of the way, I returned home and I finally had enough steel to construct my first machine. Behold, the metal press! And then I forgot to stop the recording before watching some salmonella.
Due to its anatomical similarity to humans. Now when I say experiments, I don't mean push a button, get a peanut type things. I'm talking like Yosef Mengele meets the plague dogs.
It was at this point that I finally figured out how to get shaders to work properly, and I also added a 1.14 texture pack, so expect the rest of this thing to look way better than the last 15 minutes or so. But anyways, I made the rest of the plates to upgrade my blast furnace, so I reconstructed the steel area for the third time. I know I said at the beginning that I would conduct a disastrous industrial revolution, but I needed a lot more steel to do that, so in the meantime, I decided to get started on roots, the next big chapter of the pack. Ironically, to get started with roots, I would need moss, which isn't a root, but close enough I guess. The only way to get moss was to cut it off of mossy stone, and I would need a lot of moss to progress. So, I spent the next 30 minutes circumcising every boulder in a 10-mile radius. After gathering the moss, I cleared out a little area next to my industrial zone and made a pyre so that I can craft some burnt stone with stone, bark, and the moss I just circumcised from 2 seconds ago. Unfortunately, I could only make 3 stone at a time. After spending literally all day making 3 stacks of recolored stone, I could use some of the random garbage I found earlier to make a staff. This staff could do some crazy ass shit, but to do that, I would have to imbue it with spells, which I didn't have at the moment and I couldn't make at the moment, so I set it aside for the time being. Next thing I made was the Grove Stone and Fey Crafter, which in tandem with the pyre would allow me to make the rest of the items in the Roots mod. I then had to make some elemental soil in my shiny new pyre. I would need a lot, so I decided to make 4 stacks, which meant I needed a stack of petals, a stack of compressed dirt, a stack of compressed gravel, a stack of moss, and a stack of bone blocks. The first 4 items were easy, but the stack of bone blocks was a bit more tricky. I knew there would be bones in the Nether, so it was back to the Nether I went. I didn't think they would be too hard to find, but they were being unusually stubborn, and I almost got assassinated by a zombie pigment while I was at it. At this point, I was ready to make my first illegal crop, the Dugonia. I would need to farm a fair amount of all of the plants I'd be making from here on out, so I took the time to construct the most advanced farm, the likes of which this specific Minecraft world had ever seen. It was fully capable of harvesting and replanting all crops grown on it, and I celebrated by planting the inaugural Dugonia on top. Then I made the rest of the plants in rapid succession for the roots mod. I would go into more detail, but there's really not much to say here. Thanks to all the exploration and gathering I did earlier, it was pretty much just running back and forth from my chests to the pyre, since I already had the majority of the things I needed. Now, with all of the roots plants in my possession, I was ready to progress into the actually fun part of roots, which I will do in the next episode.